are Locked On Giants Postcast, part of Locked On Sports New York on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, welcome in. It's a miracle. The Giants did something today they had not done all season long. That, of course, is win a game at MetLife Stadium. They beat the Colts today, 45-33. The 10-game losing skid is history. New York finally wins a game at home. Hello, everyone. I'm Jay Berman. If you're a New Yorker, you might recognize my work. If not, welcome aboard. Spent more than 2 decades in the biz, everything from TV to web to radio. Follow me on Twitter at jberman, Jayberman. And, of course, Dr. Anthony Blevins is here, the former Giants special teams coach, joins us every week right here on the Postcast. And welcome to the Locked On Giants Postcast, both on the Locked On Sports New York YouTube channel and the Locked On Giants podcast feed. The Postcast gives you a place to hang out after every single Giants game. That's what we do. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team, every single day. We'll, of course, discuss everything Drew Lock, who put up 5 touchdowns today, 4 through the air and 1 on the ground. All that coming up on the Postcast. Coach, your thoughts? 45-33 in front of the home folks. They finally put one in the win column.
It's about time. There's a lot of people in New York have been waiting for this for a long time. 10-game losing streak. I'm really happy for them because they actually look like a good football team today. The question I have is, where's this team been all year? This is the team that we expect to see, that we want to see. They look good on offense. They were very fluent on offense, very efficient in the pass game. And even when things got stagnant in the run game in the second half, I give Daboll credit for sticking with the run. He didn't put Drew in a position to make a big mistake, turn the ball over. He stuck with the run. They stuck with the game plan. They did a fantastic job. And you see what happens. I've said this on the podcast over and over again the last couple of weeks is, why is Malik Nabers not getting the football in the first half? You see what happens when you get him the football. He makes plays, a 31-yard reception for a touchdown early in the game. That kind of set the tone. And then the second half, he disappeared for a little bit in the second half. They finally got the ball back to him, and then he goes down the sideline. I thought it was a great performance in a game where they really could have shut it down this late in the season.
Where did we find Drew Lock? Because it's amazing. The Giants haven't had a quarterback contribute 5 touchdowns in a long time, and Drew Lock we've seen not play well. Well, today he did. 17 of 23 for 309, 4 passing touchdowns, and, of course, the rushing score. Really amazing stuff from Drew Lock, who, at best, is a backup quarterback.
Yeah, Drew's still a backup, but he had a phenomenal game today. The Indianapolis system of defense is pretty consistent. It's really a simple defense, so it looked like he really knew and understood the game plan, knew what he was getting. They were playing a lot of cover 2, a lot of zone defense, just period. So he looked like he knew where he wanted to go with the football. And even though the run game was not there, they stayed consistent with it. He kept feeding Tracy. They kept calling Tracy's number, lose 3, lose 4, gain 2. They stayed with it, so he didn't have to make the big plays. He just got the ball out to Malik Nabers, to Darius Slayton had the big play in the first half. Wan'Dale Robinson made some big plays. And they had some guys that were really wide open in the pass game. I mean, they really looked like a really good football team. They look like a good receiving core, good offense. There's still some holes there, obviously, but I don't think the system of defense that Indianapolis plays is a really complicated scheme. So he really looked comfortable in the pocket, and I thought the O-line played probably what I would say probably their best game to date was today.
Yeah, and chunk plays, as you mentioned, obviously something the Giants have been lacking really for the better part of 2 years. But chunk plays were a huge part of today. How do you add it all up? How do you not go chunk play for basically 4 months, and then suddenly when a team needs it, the Colts needed the game, there's chunk plays everywhere? Amazing turnaround.
Yeah, I think they really just understood what was going on. I thought they saw it, and I think Drew Lock slowed it. It looked like the game slowed down for him today. Like he started the last, started the last two games, started the game before that. But it's really hard to find a rhythm when you're not playing consistently. It looked like he found a rhythm today, and the pocket was clean for him, and he was able to get downfield, make some back shoulder throws to Malik Nabers, who's just fantastic, and who I keep saying they've got to find ways to get him the football, because when he plays well, they play well on offense. And it was really exciting to see today.
7 catches for $171 for Nabers. Wandale, despite that huge drop, was also effective today. Wandale had 5 catches for 71 yards and a score. Darius Slayton also scored. It's the first time in Giants history that 3 different receivers have scored a touchdown in one half. They did that in the first half, Nabers, Robinson, and Slayton. But again, the receiving core, what we expected, what we wanted all season long, we finally got today in Week 17.
Yeah, and it's about time those guys showed up. But it all goes to everything. It goes to the offensive line playing well. It goes to Dayball being able to call run plays and stick with the run. Receivers getting open. It's a combination of everything that just went within the flow today. It just looked really good, really fluent today. Reminded me of the 2022 team that went to the playoffs. This was that team that we all expected to see this year.
What's interesting is there's a lot of firsts that we need to talk about. Obviously, the turnover battle is one. They won that today, 3-0 for the first time this season. They had not won the turnover battle in any game. It was the first time they were leading at the half since Week 3 in Cleveland, which of course was a win. 21 games without scoring 30-plus points. That goes bye-bye. It's the first time 35-plus points since they last faced the Colts in early 23. And then in 2019, that was the last time they put up 40-plus points. So a lot of firsts, 45 points, something we haven't seen again in 5 years, Coach.
Yeah, it was just really fun to watch them play. They on that team when they played Indy, when they put up 35 points, it was a very similar game plan. Looked like run the ball. They got a turnover. We got a turnover for a score that day. I think Landon Collins returned an interception for a touchdown. So that kind of played into it with the special teams touchdown they got today. So it was very similar to the game in 23, January 1st, 2023. So, I think the way that Indy plays defense, Gus Bradley was there as a coordinator. It was the same coaches there, same coaches in New York, Dayball's offense. So it just flowed the same way as that game.
What's interesting is that I believe Joe Flacco was the quarterback of the Colts the last time the Giants played the Colts. What's also interesting is that he didn't play very poorly, actually. He played pretty well, 26 of 38 for 330. Now, the picks weren't good, but he did have 2 touchdowns, and he kept the Colts in the game. From a Colts perspective, real quick, how damaging a defeat is this?
Yeah, for them to be in a position to keep their playoff hopes alive and lose to a two-win team, that's very demoralizing. They're eliminated from the playoffs. There's no hope for them going into the playoffs. It's very demoralizing to be in that locker room right now, knowing that we needed some help, but in order for us to get into the playoffs, we had to win, and we didn't do that. We didn't come out here and take care of business. Like, as a matter of fact, the Colts looked flat majority of the day, and they played that way. They played better in the second half, but sometimes turning it on in the second half is too late. There was no sense of urgency for them when they came out of the locker room after the opening kickoff, and it showed in the first half.
Yeah, Shane Steichen made some questionable calls today in multiple points during the game. I think he's got a lot to learn as an NFL head coach. That's a topic for another day. We'll discuss Tracy and Nabers as the future is bright from the skill position. We'll do that next. Again, Coach and myself, Giants Postcast, after a win, 45-33 over the Colts. All right, folks, we'll start by telling you that this postcast is brought to you by Rocket Money. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about that you were paying for twice? Well, that definitely happened to me. I had a few subscriptions that I didn't even realize I was still paying for. And Rocket Money made it easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place. Whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year, Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all the app's premium features. For me, one of the best features is the subscription tracker. I've used it to cancel services I wasn't using anymore, and I've already saved a ton. Plus, with their goals feature, I've been able to automatically set aside money for my future. No more stressing about budgeting every month. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. All right, the coach and I are back after yes, folks, a win. 45-33. All right, Coach, we talked about the future, at least from a skill position perspective, is pretty bright. The combination of Tracy and Nabers, we talked about the chunk plays. They were excellent today. Tracy's 59 yards rushing. However, as you said, they committed to the run, especially late. They got the job done. So Nabers and Tracy, we talked about Nabers 171 through the air. Really quite a combo, quite a duo. Exactly what we were looking for.
Yeah, this combination between Nabers and Tracy, it's going to be a Giants' favorite for years to come. They are really dynamic. Tracy does some good stuff, and there's even things that they can do more to get him the football. He's a receiver by trade, and he made the transition to running back, which has been a really good transition. But they can use him out of the backfield, a screen game, getting him in pass routes, motioning him out of the backfield, and getting him involved in the pass game that way. There's a lot of things that he can do with his versatility. And then Nabers is just a stud. I mean, this is the first time that the Giants have had a 1,000-yard receiver since 2018 with Odell. Like, he is a absolute stud. Like, he was worth the draft pick last year at number 6. And he's going to be a Giants favorite. I really like the way he competes. He goes after the football. And they'll have those two guys on the same team, two rookies, to go for 1,000 yards from scrimmage is impressive.
Yeah, and you mentioned it, 2006. That's the last pair of rookie teammates to each top 1,000 yards. It's only the second time that's happened since 1970. And as you mentioned, worthy of repeating, the first Giants receiver to hit 1,000 yards since Beckham did back in 2018. Slayton and Robinson, as we told you, each had a touchdown reception in the first half. It's each now a touchdown for the first time since week 5 in Cleveland. The Giants also put up 21 points in the first half, their most since week 3 at Cleveland. Remember, prior to today, the 2 wins were in Cleveland and in Seattle, and they finally get a home win today. So that one winless home season goes bye-bye. Back in 1974, Coach, when they played at the Yale Bowl, the only time the Giants won fewer than 2 games in a campaign was 1966. So we avoid 2 huge you-know-whats, if you will. And again, a monumental day.
Yeah, you don't want to be on that side of history for sure. You know, that's some bad history there. For the Giants. But they've avoided that, which is good. Now, can they, I don't know what happens next week, does Philly play, but can they look like the same team going into the last week of the season? That's the issue. Or, we talked about the Giants being consistently inconsistent. Can they stack 2 in a row now? That's the question you got to get to with them. And I really like Wandale. Wandale's like in the slot, phenomenal route runner, good leader, does a great job for him. So they've got a chance to really be better as the season, in the next game and moving forward to next year. They got some pieces that if they can add something to the offensive line, get some guys healthy, Dexter, those guys back, they'll have a chance to be better, I think, next year.
All right, we spoke about the defense and specifically the turnovers because for the first time this season, as we said, the Giants won a turnover battle 3 to the positive today. Let's focus in on those INTs. Dane Belton with a wonderful catch early, just the 4th pick this season for the Giants until Drew Phillips made the 5th pick, his 2nd of the day. So Belton and Phillips, pretty good back there as well.
Yeah, I thought that pick by Dane on the first drive, it pretty much set the tone. Indy was going down the field pretty seamlessly at that point. Flacco's trying to throw the ball away and then doesn't get it far enough out of bounds, makes a great play. But it all started with the pressure. It started with the pressure on the quarterback. You've got to make the quarterbacks feel uncomfortable in the pocket. And that's what they did on that play. And they rushed the throw, came up with a great play. And then again on the pick, Drew Phillips. What happened? They got pressure on the quarterback. He threw it. He couldn't step into the throw, threw it high, landed right there in his lap. And honestly, I thought he was gonna score on it when he got it. But that's where it starts at. Turnover starts with getting pressure on the quarterback, interceptions. And just imagine that. We talked about the biggest stat or correlation that it comes to winning is turnovers. So imagine that. You get 3 turnovers, you don't give the ball away, you win the game. I mean, a simple formula, right?
Yeah, what's amazing is they actually tried to give it away despite the turnover advantage. Coach, from a Colts perspective, obviously they too were throwing the ball downfield. Pierce and Pittman were awesome, each over 100 yards. Why were they able to throw the ball yet unable to protect Flacco? Pressure from the Giants all day, as we said, led to those turnovers.
Yeah, I just think those receivers are just better than what they have in the secondary. Right now they're banged up in the secondary. You got guys injured, guys have been traded. Deontay Banks, he's a penalty machine. He holds he holds like there's like all the time. He just holds. Yeah. I don't know why. Panics when the ball's in the air, and they get big plays and bad leverage. The play right after the Giants went up 9 late in the game. I forgot what the score, 35-26 or whatever, something like that, 35-26. They hit the big post down the middle. It looked like they were in quarter coverage. Pinnock, Dane Belton, they run into each other. But why were they so close? I don't know what they saw, what they read, but they shouldn't have been that close to the line of scrimmage where they could have ran into each other. And they left the corners out on the island. So there's a lot of things that go into it that they've got to correct. But that could have been a really big play, down there at that point in the game, because it was still I think that happened about 8 minutes left in the game. So the game was still in doubt, and you still had time to get the ball back at that particular point in time.
Oh, it's amazing. I really can't believe, Coach, we're breaking down a win here. Regardless, let's talk about Nabers' season as a whole. He entered with 97 catches, needed 9 to break the rookie record, which he'll do next week. So 7 plus 97 is 104 catches. Quite in a season, his first in the NFL. Yes, it was a frustrating season because the team only won 3 games. However, your thoughts on Nabers' first season in the NFL?
He's been fantastic. I mean, he's been absolutely what you want out of a first-round pick at number 6. He's been that guy, and he's the most right now, probably the most dominant receiver in the NFC East, probably other than CeeDee Lamb. He's going to have a bright future, and I would like to see him get that record in the first half next week. They should just force feed him the ball, screens, hitches, whatever it takes to get him that record as early as possible in that game.
Yeah, the Eagles blew out the Cowboys today, no surprise. So they're going to take the division, and odds are they're not going to get the 1 seed. So who knows what we're going to get from Philadelphia next week.
Yeah, if I'm Philadelphia, Saquon's 101 yards away from the record, and that record is not an individual record. That's a record that stood for 40 years. It was set in 1984. Eric Dickerson said it in 1984. So it's been there for 40 years. I would really love for Philly to break that record, to be honest with you, and I would love to see Saquon get it. I love Saquon from my time at the Giants. He was a great teammate, great competitor, just an all-around phenomenal human being. I would love to see him break it, but if I know Saquon, and they give him the option to rest and knowing that there's something bigger out there, Saquon will take the rest and be number 2 on that list.
Yeah, it's funny. Eric Dickerson, I don't know if you caught this, said a couple of days ago that he did not want Saquon to break the record for whatever it's worth. All right, Coach, again, I can't believe we're breaking down a win, but let's talk big picture now. And I can't believe we got to do it, but we do, so forgive me. Did Dable save his job today?
I don't know if he saved his job, to be honest with you. Because if I'm John Mara, I'm looking at where has this team been all year? Why haven't we been able to do this all year? That's what I'm looking at. And then you're kind of looking at how has it been the last couple of games, leading up to this. It's been blowout, 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 blowout. Team that looks like they can compete for a division, so I don't know if he saved his job, and I'm not saying that they fire him, but I don't say that this one particular game is the game that will save his job.
Let's say they beat the Eagles next week, even with the Eagles at half strength. Does that make a difference? Would 4 wins make a difference?
I can't say that 4 wins make a difference. I think what's going to happen after the season is Daboll, Joe Shane, John Mara, Steve Tisch, they're going to sit down in a room, and they'll be in that room for a day, 2 days, and they want to hear a plan going forward. Last year, when Philly had the breakdown at the end of the year, they sat down, Nick Sirianni, Howie Roseman, Jeffrey Leary, they sat down and they discussed the plan moving forward. What is the plan for moving forward? The plan for winning a Super Bowl, plan for getting to the playoffs and being dominant. And they came up with the right plan, and you kind of see that plan working now. That's what will happen in New York next Monday. So I don't say that any particular game down the stretch, this win, they win next week, that's not going to save his job. What's going to save his job is the plan moving forward, in my opinion.
Yeah, I hate to say this because we've discussed this several times, and I always thought like they were getting wiped out, both Shane and Dable. I have a feeling that something changed today. Now, look, it could all be flushed down the toilet next week with a poor performance in Philadelphia, which is not impossible considering how bad the season's been. But I don't know. I think today helped. And to be honest, I think a lot of fans were upset because they want a tank. They want the number 1 pick. At worst, they want the number 2 pick. But again, I think today helped. Now, did it help in the long run? Will they get one of those 2 quarterbacks that are so highly sought after? I don't know. Today sort of muddied the waters for me.
Yeah, I don't know where they are now. I think they've dropped down to 4th with the win. I believe that's correct if I'm not mistaken. They're 4th in order. I think the one of the quarterbacks could potentially be there. New England, they don't need a quarterback. They've got Drake May. They drafted their quarterback last year. So maybe they take Travis Hunter or some other person. Whoever's number 2, maybe they don't need a quarterback. So it all depends on needs. But I think potentially there could be a quarterback there, and it could be a potential trade value somewhere to move up if they fall out of that top 3, top 4 spot.
I would not be surprised if they traded up, if they fall out of the 1 or 2 spot. Obviously, plenty of things can still happen, but I think they thought about doing it last year, and we saw how all 5 and 6 quarterbacks have been excellent this year. I don't think they let another year go by where they don't make a trade.
Yeah, they've got to get a quarterback. They don't have a quarterback of the future on the roster. We can talk about how well Drew Lock played today, but he's a backup. Like, there's no doubt about it. He's a backup quarterback. Tommy DeVito is a practice squad quarterback. Tim Boyle, I don't even know who he is, so I can't even have an opinion on him. But right. They don't have a quarterback on the roster at this particular point in time. So they've got to find that guy who's going to be their next Eli Manning, their best next franchise quarterback, the next Super Bowl winning quarterback for the franchise, and reset the franchise in this particular draft here.
All right, Giants are now 3-13, and again 1-8 at home. They avoid becoming the only team in NFL history ever to go 0-9 in their home portion of the schedule. They avoid the 11th consecutive loss, and again they won the turnover battle with picks from Belton and Phillips. The combination of Nabers and Tracy were excellent. Drew Lock played well. Now let's do Joe Shane, Coach. Your thoughts on Shane coming back as Giants GM?
Yeah, I think, in my personal opinion, I think he's back. I think him, honestly, I think him and probably Daves do come back. I do think there'll be some changes. What the changes are, I don't know. But I just think the Giants need to stick with the course. They flip coaches every 2 years, every 3 years. It's hard to get better, hard to have some type of consistency when you're changing coaches like you change underwear. It's just hard because Joe's drafting to a particular team, and now you've got a roster of these guys that fit a particular scheme, a particular look, and then now you bring a new GM. Now you got to reset it all over again. You got to trade guys. You got to redraft guys. You got to retrain guys. Got to get different guys in free agency, and it's just like at some point you've got to kind of stick with it and build something long term. And this will be year 4 coming up, and 4 years is time enough. You got a chance to reset the franchise, draft your quarterback, and then you have to ask yourself, if you're management, have I given these guys enough to have a successful football team, a winning football team? So there's some back and forth between ownership and GM and coach in this.
All right, Coach, thank you for making Locked On Sports New York your first listen today. Now for your second listen, go find the new Locked On NFL with 2 shows every day. First, the madman Tyler Rowland kicks off your morning with a double shot of NFL espresso. Then stop by the Barber Shop with Tony Wiggins for some real NFL talk. Find Locked On NFL on your YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Also want to mention our partner in crime over at Locked On Giants, the best, Patricia Traina. So follow, subscribe, and enjoy. All right, Coach, before we get out of here, your final thoughts on a 45-33 win. Amazing.
Well, it's good. It's good to be on here and talk about a win. It's the first time that I've been able to talk about a win, so I'm kind of excited. I love the Giants. The Giants were good to me in my time there, so I want to see them do well. And it was good to see them put a full game together. They played well on special teams, played well on offense. Defense can be a little bit better, but they played well enough to win. So we'll take it at this point. After coming off a 10-game losing streak, but I'm excited for them. I think that this will be good. I'm really excited to see how they play next week. That's what I'm looking for. Can they handle success? I think you tell a lot about a team's character in how you handle success. We always talk about, adversity. Well, handling success is as part of that as well.
All right, Coach, one more to go. That's a week from today. Eagles and Giants. And, of course, we'll have the postcast right here. Giants are 3-13 now after a 45-33 win. For the coach, I'm Jay. We will see you next week.